This video is regarding survival training your dog. Trigger, come here. Anybody's dog who may have a tendency to wander, this is a good training exercise for. We've trained them how to recognize food on their own while they're out and about. These are English setters. They have a tendency to wander off. We had one lost up by a lake while we were recreating one time. We did recover her. However, afterward we realized that we kind of needed to have a training mechanism where they could survive if they were lost for an extended period of time. So we trained, the number one thing we trained them to do is find food. And domestic dogs do not survive typically in the wild because they don't recognize food. Same reason that humans don't survive typically. So we actually do our own butcher here, and that gives us a leg up on a fresh source of food. So whenever we're butchering, we give them what they can have out of the butcher animals that is okay for them. And this would incorporate, come here Trig, this would incorporate the kidneys and the liver. Make sure when you're doing the liver that you remove the bile. Come here Trig. Now what you don't want to include is stuff like the feet, because this is a rabbit. Look at the nails. Whether it's a chicken or a rabbit or whatever it is. See, they want it, but no. You don't want to include stuff like that. So you also don't want to include stuff like the entrails, because all of this stuff will turn the dog off of natural foods like that, because they'll eat it if you train them to eat it, but it makes them nauseous. And if you come across a carcass, you'll actually notice that they leave a lot of the entrails, the coyotes do. So you want to emulate that by don't feed them the entrails, because it's going to turn them off of your raw meats. We don't feed bones just because of the danger. Same reason we don't feed the feet. You can feed the tail on the rabbits, stuff like that. You can of course feed the meat, but training them to eat the raw meat can be as simple as involving them in the slaughter. Make sure that you don't scold them during a slaughter, because you want them to be involved. Obviously have them be respectful, because you don't want them to be disrespectful during slaughter. You're the pack leader. You want them to realize that you're in charge of the carcass. But you can start out small, make it a pack event of kind of involving them in it. Then they're more likely to consume the animal parts and the raw meat. Also, this is a safer way when you're doing your own. You know the source. If you know your source and trust your source, that's fine. But raw meat can, of course, carry salmonella and stuff like that. So when you're using your own home-raised meat, then you don't have to worry so much about that. But you do want to take care that they are consuming the parts that are going to make them feel okay. Start out easy, like maybe give them a little strip of pelt off of a bunny, or a little tiny bit of meat off of a chicken. Stuff that's not going to make them grossed out. Don't start out with the liver. And the dog can acclimate them to the raw meat product. You can even start out with something as simple as pelts and give them a tiny little strip of that, so they get an idea for what that is. It's not just kibble in life. Food comes in many forms, and I've even kind of put a little saliva from my mouth onto the product, so that they understand I've been eating this. It smells like mom. And so therefore they're more apt to consume it. But this has been part one of teaching your dog to survive in the wild.